Welcome back to Ask Dr. Rick on 590 The Fan, KFNS. If you have a question for Dr. Rick, please head to facebook.com/Ask Dr. Rick Lehman. Also, you can follow him on Twitter. Ask Dr. Rick now. Back to the show, presented by Bellman Buick GMC.
Right now at Bellman Buick GMC, they are offering free food and beverages to those that visit their showroom and lot today and again on Monday. It's their way of saying thank you. And as many of you know, Bellman has been a leader in this industry for decades, and their tradition continues today. Cars, trucks, SUVs. If you're looking for a used car, they have access to over 40,000 of them, so they can find the vehicle that a customer is looking for. So head out there for the free food and beverages at Bellman Buick GMC, I-270 and McDonald Boulevard, and a proud sponsor of Ask Dr. Rick. I'm Dan McLaughlin of Fox Sports Midwest. Let's bring back into the conversation Dr. Rick Lehman again. Find him on Facebook, facebook.com/Ask Dr. Rick Lehman, and find him on Twitter as well. I'm Dan McLaughlin, and Doctor, we went to break. We were talking about cycling and, I guess, doping, and you think about what happens with blood and how that is part of the cycling experience because of what we've heard with Lance Armstrong. In a nutshell, and trying to explain it to the common man or woman out there listening, and I would be in this group because I have no idea how to do this, but what was Lance Armstrong doing, and how was he able to get away with it?
Well, first of all, Lance Armstrong's a genius. No doubt about it. He might be a great athlete. He may be a great cyclist. He may be all those things, but he's a genius. So Lance Armstrong had a very, very complicated scheme, which included doping, which included supplements, which are testosterone, human growth hormone, etc., and virtually a complete package that he had put together for him and his teammates so that they would do these, we'll call it cheating things, and not get caught. So this is not an easy thing to do. You look at Ben Johnson, you go through the list of guys that have gotten caught. You know, a lot of guys get caught, and so Lance Armstrong had a very thorough attack, bringing in all the resources and basically really pissing off the French because they just could not believe that this guy could do this year in, year out and not get caught. They were convinced, they were sure that he was cheating, and you got to hand it to him. Blood doping basically is a situation where you take your blood, you save it, and then at the appropriate time you retransfuse yourself, and you say to yourself, well, why do you want to do that? Well, you want to do that because the amount of blood you have determines how much oxygen gets to your muscle. So if you have a little bit of blood has the oxygen that gets to your muscle. You have a little bit of oxygen in your muscle. But if you're a cyclist and you're going to ride for 20 days in the Alps and up and down the mountains, you need a lot of oxygen going to your muscle to give your muscles energy. So he would do blood doping, and he did it on a routine basis, and he would do all kinds of anabolic steroids, growth hormone combinations, and he did this in a way that he never got caught. So the guy was a genius.
He had cancer, and at that time, if you may recall, many experts and doctors said he'll be lucky just to be able to walk up steps and to be doing the simple things in life if he gets past testicular cancer. And then Dr. Lehman, he's all of a sudden not only doing that, but as you mentioned, he's competing in the Tour de France and on the circuit. So how does that happen? How was he able to take that particular aspect of his life and then not only make it to where he's normal, but then to be one of the most superior athletes we've ever seen?
Well, I mean, he had metastatic testicular cancer. So most people with metastatic testicular cancer are going to die. That's first of all. So the fact that he didn't die and he's a cure is truly amazing. And I don't think people really understand that was a huge accomplishment. Maybe not his accomplishment, but an accomplishment that he had to go through, the medical team, what he experienced. I think once he got through that whole process, the fact that he got back to professional cycling is truly a miracle because, again, blood doping or not, testosterone or not, steroids or not, there's very few people that can be professional cyclists. And to be a cyclist at that level, forget a champion, is amazing. So it's just such a small percentage of people. Great athletes can do what these guys can do. It's truly much more likely to be a great hitter in baseball, a pro golfer, etc. So you're talking about a very small group of guys, and he was able to master this after going through this treatment, chemotherapy, etc., for testicular cancer. And I really believe that he's an amazing athlete. I think he's a driven guy. I think he's probably one of very few people that could ever get back to a normal lifestyle. And here he has gone and basically won and then unwon 7 Tour de France's.
We see and have heard all these different athletes that have taken steroids. Give me your professional opinion, the ones that, let's say, abuse steroids, because it is used in a positive manner, too, which a lot of people don't realize. It is used to help people for certain ailments that they may deal with. So we're hearing about the abuse of steroids in professional sports. 10, 15 years down the road, what are some of these guys going to be looking like? Will some of these guys even be around?
Well, I think you've got a lot of reasons to take steroids. I think as males get older, we lose the percentage of testosterone in our body. So if you were deficient in vitamin D or vitamin C, you would take vitamin D and vitamin C. And what we're learning is you really probably should take testosterone replacement as you get older because your levels drop off. And there are a lot of good things about taking testosterone and getting your levels where they should be. And I think in the future, you're going to see more and more run-of-the-mill Rick Lehmans and people out there just taking testosterone to get their levels where they need to be. Now, if you take 100 times the amount of vitamin C you need or 100 times the amount of vitamin D you need, then it poses a problem. And it doesn't matter what it is. You just can't, you can't do that, and your body can't generate and use that and then get rid of it. It's just impossible for you to process that. So steroids are the same exact thing. And so when you take huge doses of steroids, you get the good, you get the bad. Good is you're jacked up, you got big muscles, you're strong, you have very low body fat, you have great endurance, you can work out like a fiend. And the bad is you probably are going to end up with some type of cell-based cancer. You're probably going to end up with some type of liver problems. And so when these doses get higher and higher and higher, we're just learning about the bad. We're just learning what happens. And most of these guys are going to have a problem as they get older. They're going to have breakdown. They're very likely going to have some type of cell-based, blood-based cancer. And I think you're going to see the incidence of liver and brain cancer go through the roof.
A lot of was made of the Hall of Fame voting and who should be in and who should be out. So I'm curious, from a doctor's perspective, guys that are on steroids, how much better does it make them, and should they be in the Hall of Fame from your perspective?
Well, from my perspective, I would say that they shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, and from the voters, the writers' perspective, it was very similar because across the board they were DQ'd. I mean, you could see that they were having none of this, didn't have it last year, weren't having it this year. I think it's unfair to take years and years and years of great baseball players, and I'm not saying the guys in before never did anything. I think they took whatever was available. If it was speed, if it was whatever they could think was going to help their cause, their performance, they're going to do that. And if you're a great athlete and someone said, Dan, you could win the gold medal by doing this drug, or you could be kind of finish 9th or 10th or not make the Olympic team, what are you going to do? You're going to take the drug. So there's not one athlete that I've ever dealt with given the choice to say, if you do this, you're going to win a gold medal, you're going to hit 60 home runs, you're going to be the best shutdown corner. Every athlete's going to take that. So I'm not so sure you can blame the athlete in isolation. It's a society that's gone and brought these options to the athlete. But it's unfair to all the athletes before them that didn't have this opportunity. So the Johnny Benches and the Stan Musials, you can go through the list of athletes. And so to say, we're going to pick these guys, and they had a huge benefit and a huge opportunity to make their fly balls home runs, I think is unfair. The real problem is the middle group. You got a bunch of guys that are in the Hall of Fame that probably did some bad stuff, didn't get caught, didn't know how to test for it, but still they kind of got away with it.
You're listening to Ask Dr. Rick on 590 The Fan. It's our first of 52 shows of the year, so get ready, Dr. Rick. We're going to talk a lot of steroids. So Rick Lehman is with us, and again, if you'd like to ask just a general question about the Weekend Warrior or your kids, head to facebook.com/Ask Dr. Rick Lehman, Lehman. You can also follow him on Twitter. You've been asked an awful lot about RG3. You've been talking about Adrian Peterson, but I do want to focus just a bit on baseball. Speaking of the Hall of Fame, I've always thought it's incredibly interesting to see who does get in, who doesn't. And if you're talking about guys that are innovative in the world of baseball and in sports, you have to look at those that have innovated it with basically a surgery that's changed the entire landscape of the sport and certainly the financial fortunes of many. And that's Tommy John surgery. So those that have perfected it and originated it, do you think they should be in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Dr. Job, who's older now, who was an amazing guy, decided one day that he was going to perform the surgery, had no idea if it was going to work, had no idea what the outcome was going to be, and decided that he needed to fix the ulnar collateral ligament and reconstruct the ulnar collateral ligament. And I think just that thought process, just like the guy who did the first ACL, I just think you're talking about very, very innovative guys. And I think the doctors that have brought these athletes to the level that they're at, they should be in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt.
You hear Tommy John. Tell me the surgery. How does it work? And explain it to the layman out there.
Well, Tommy John surgery basically is reconstructing or making a new ligament on the inside part of the elbow. So the ulnar collateral ligament, which is the ligament on the inside part of your elbow right near something called the ulnar nerve, fails when you're throwing a baseball. And every time you throw a baseball, 100% of the time, that ligament is at its failure rate. So a Major League Baseball player throwing anywhere above 80 miles an hour is going to stress that ligament to its max with every pitch. And sooner or later, if you throw enough and you throw hard enough, that ligament's going to fail. Now, it can fail a couple different ways. It can fail with one pitch, and you see the pitcher kind of shake their arm, walk off the mound, hasta luego, they're done. And we've all seen that. It can fail over a period of time where an athlete comes in and they don't really have any pain. They were throwing 88, they were throwing 92, and now they're throwing 75. No pain, don't understand it, just can't generate any ball speed. So the ligament can fail a number of ways, and basically what you have to do is take something else and make a new ligament. The ligament's worn out, it's torn, it's stretched, it isn't working, and you can't throw a baseball without that ligament. So what you end up doing is taking either a tendon in the wrist or a tendon in the leg. We've actually gone to using a hamstring tendon because I think some of the failures of Tommy John surgery and why guys are having recurrences are that the ligament is not strong enough that we're putting in. So we've gone using a hamstring, and you literally drill a hole on the upper part of the arm or the distal humerus and the lower part of the arm, which is called the ulna, and you weave that ligament through these holes and you make a new ulnar collateral ligament. Now you have to make it the right tension, you have to make it the right length, and you got to make it so the pitcher can get back to throwing 95 miles an hour. And after doing the surgery a lot, it becomes actually very straightforward. But if you think about a guy who's sever done it and had no conception of doing it and did the first one, that's pretty amazing.
How would you explain then guys like Roger Clemens, Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan, guys that for the most part, at least from what we've seen, made it through, and I'd say for the most part, injury-free?
I think they're freaks. I really do, and I think you see freaks in every sport. We're talking about Lance Armstrong. I mean, that's 1 in 100 million or 50 million or whatever. And I think Roger Clemens is the same. Steroids or no steroids, the guy was an avid trainer. He worked hard. He threw year after year. He had very few problems. He trained in the off season probably more than any pitcher had ever trained, and did all the things right to make sure he stayed healthy. And I think you're going to see very few people that go through that process. There's all guys that go out and have nothing but injuries, and then you have a very few guys that pitch a long time and really do pitch injury-free and end up retiring just because they're too old.
Dr. Rick Lehman is with us. You've heard him constantly throughout the years on 590 The Fan. You've seen his work on television. If you have questions for him, please go ahead and just jump on Facebook, facebook.com/Ask Dr. Rick Lehman, Lehman. Also follow him on Twitter. When we come back, you've heard so much about RG3. You've heard about Adrian Peterson and the remarkable story that those two are. One could be just a remarkable story in the fact that he could be back out there for opening day. That's RG3 and his knee injury. What is that knee injury? How does he come back from it? We're going to find out next. It's Ask Dr. Rick on 590 The Fan.